Hi there, I hope you are doing fine. This is Mr. Philip Kauma, the excellent biology tutor. We're looking at excretion, and this is the final video. Without wasting much of your time, let us begin. What are the objectives for this video? What are the objectives? We're going to look at kidney failure and treatment, and finally we're going to look at the dialysis machine. Alright, let's start the video by looking at kidney failure and treatment. So kidney failure may be caused by poisoning, maybe mamaka poison that can cause kidney failure, accidents, okay, which are injuries to the kidneys, infection, and drug abuse. These are some of the causes of kidney failure. So if they ask you what causes kidney failure, these are the ways. These are some of the ways which can bring about kidney failure: poisoning, accidents, infection, and drug abuse. Now, kidney failure may be treated, and it can be treated in two ways. One, by kidney transplant. Two, by use of a dialysis machine. Let's look at each one of them, starting by looking at the kidney transplant. What is this? Kidney transplant, Devchan. So this is a surgical operation during which a normal kidney from another person called a donor is added to an individual experiencing kidney failure. The transplanted kidney must be compatible with the recipient, otherwise there will be tissue rejection. Okay, so in surgery, they will cut you. If you are experiencing kidney failure, they'll cut you, and then they'll get a kidney from a normal person, they'll put it in you. Understand? So it's a surgical operation, and during this surgical operation, a normal kidney is taken from another person who is called a donor, and that kidney is a normal kidney. It's taken from a person called a donor, and then it is added to an individual who has or who is experiencing kidney failure. So the individual who is receiving this normal kidney is known as a recipient. Then the person who is giving out their kidney is known as a donor. Now, for this transplant to be successful, the kidneys must be compatible. The kidney must be compatible. If there is tissue rejection, that simply means it won't work. Okay, so the tissues have to accept each other. Otherwise, if there's tissue rejection, it won't work. If the normal kidney is not compatible with the body of the recipient, it won't work. There must be compatibility there. Okay, so we've got a diagram, and this is how it looks. So this is a transplanted kidney. This kidney is coming from a donor, then it has been added to the body of this individual who is a recipient in this case. So that's kidney transplant. Okay, yeah. Dialysis machine. Let's first look at the diagram of a dialysis machine. We've got a pump here, okay, and then we've got blood from patient's vein. Okay, blood from patient's vein is entering. Then we've got the dialysis fluid out, dialysis fluid in. So what we have, this is the dialysis fluid. This is a dialysis fluid. Then we've got the dialysis tube, mechanically coiled. This is the dialysis tube. Okay. Then we've got the bubble trap, and then blood to patient's vein. So this is blood from patient's vein, meaning it's coming from a vein, entering, and then it's going back into the patient's vein. Blood to patient's vein. So this is the diagram of a dialysis machine. Please pause the video, look at this diagram very well, play it back to continue watching this video. Alright, let's look at the dialysis tube, which is tube, coiled, this coiled tube. So dialysis tube is a tube through which a patient's blood passes. So blood dipita mulika tube. The tube is long and coiled in order to increase the surface area for diffusion. So it's coiled to simply increase the length, and as the length is increasing, even the surface is also increasing. Okay, so it's coiled to do what? To increase the surface area for diffusion. Okay, the tube is also thin and selectively permeable. This tube is what? Thin and selectively permeable. By selectively permeable, it simply means it allows some substances to pass through it. Are you following? Not everything will pass through this tube. Alright, so if let me just zoom in. if we've got things in this fluid, no, if those things have got, if those things are large, okay, they are large molecules, they won't be able to penetrate and go into the blood of this individual. Okay, so this tube only allows some substances to pass through it, meaning substances with small molecules. Okay, so the tube wall is also thin and selectively permeable. Thus, it allows small molecules such as glucose, urea, salts, and water to pass through, but prevents large ones from doing so. So the only substances that can pass through are those that are small, like I said. Um, uh, Things like glucose. Glucose can pass through. Urea can also do that. Salts and water can also pass through. Okay, but this tube prevents large ones from doing so. It allows large molecules to pass through. Okay, that is why it is selectively permeable. So the patient's blood is drawn from a vein on the patient's arm and taken into the dialysis machine. So blood is going to be drawn from the vein of this person to go into the machine. Blood is now being filtered, okay, being filtered, being cleaned, in short. Okay, we're now extracting urea out of the blood. Okay, so the patient's blood is drawn from a vein on the patient's arm and taken into the dialysis machine through a tube with the help of a pump. So this pump is helping any operator to draw blood from the patient's vein. Okay, then it will go into the dialysis machine. Okay, so after passing through the machine, blood is, let me just zoom in here, blood is retained, okay, it's retained to a different point on the same patient's vein. So this is at one point of a vein, blood is drawn from that vein, it goes into the dialysis machine, and then after excretion occurs, it's taken back at another point on the same vein. Are you following? That's what they are saying. So when blood is entering, there are things that are going into the dialysis fluid, okay, and then those are the things that are not needed in the blood. So those things are coming from the blood going into the dialysis fluid, and those things are what? Urea. Urea is what is not needed. It is toxic. Okay, yeah. So we've looked at the characteristics of the dialysis tube. We said it's long and coiled. Why? To increase the surface area for diffusion. And we've also looked at another characteristic, which is it is thin, therefore, and it's selectively permeable. Okay, those are the characteristics of the dialysis tube. Now let's look at the dialysis fluid. The dialysis fluid is a solution of salts and glucose in water, and its concentration is equal to the normal concentration of blood. The dialysis fluid is introduced into the machine using an inlet and removed using an outlet at a different location. The flow of the dialysis fluid through the machine is opposite to the flow of the patient's blood through the dialysis tubing. This is called counter-current flow and helps make diffusion faster by maintaining a constant diffusion gradient. Alright, now let me explain. First of all, they are saying that this fluid, it is a solution. A solution, when you hear the term solution, just know that there are things in that. There are things that have been dissolved in a solvent. A solvent is water. So if you get sugar, you put it in water, you formed a solution because sugar has melted in water. So now you've got sugar and water making a solution. So dialysis fluid is also a solution. Okay, and this solution is made up of what? Salts, glucose, and water. So salts and glucose have melted in water. They formed a solution, which is the dialysis fluid. Now, the concentration of salts, the concentration of water, and the concentration of glucose are equal to the normal concentration of blood. So blood has got a normal concentration of these components. Okay, salts, glucose, and water. It has got a normal concentration of all these components. And the concentration in blood of these things, salts, glucose, and water, are equal to the concentration which is in the dialysis fluid. Are you following? So what does that mean? Let's say we've got two regions. We've got this region and we've got this region. If these two regions are equal in concentration, diffusion or osmosis won't take place. Are you following? Diffusion or osmosis won't take place. Diffusion and osmosis only take place if there is no equality. That is why when someone sprays perfume, it is able to diffuse to where others are. So when someone sits at the corner of the room and then you're also at another corner, if they spray perfume, you won't smell it right there and then. You won't get the scent. But after some time, you start getting the scent because the concentration is different from where that person is to where you are. So the particles will start spreading to where they haven't yet occupied to ensure that the whole room is occupied with that same scent. So diffusion will only take place if there's a difference in concentration. So there is equality in concentration to prevent glucose, salts, and water from escaping from the blood. So there is equality. The concentration of salts, glucose, and water in the blood should be equal to the concentration of salts, glucose, and water in the fluid to prevent these two from escaping from each other. You understand? Like in blood, salts should be equal to the salts in the dialysis fluid so that salts won't diffuse from the blood into the dialysis fluid because salts are important. Same with glucose and water. But urea is only found in the blood. It is not in the dialysis fluid. Therefore, urea is easily going to escape from the blood going into the fluid. Are you following now? So that's the purpose. We're trying to only get rid of urea and not these other three because these other three are important. Urea is not. It is toxic. So we're trying to get rid of it. Therefore, it will diffuse from the blood going into the fluid. I hope you've understood why the concentrations are equal. Now, the dialysis fluid is introduced into the machine using an inlet and removed using an outlet at a different location. So there's an inlet here, okay? So the dialysis fluid will be introduced into the machine at this point, then it will come out at that point, okay? Then they're saying that the flow of the dialysis fluid through the machine is opposite to the flow of the patient's blood through the dialysis tubing. This is called countercurrent flow and helps make diffusion faster by maintaining a constant diffusion gradient. So the fluid is going in that direction, then the blood is going in this direction. So they are moving in opposite directions. This is done to do what? To increase the rate of diffusion. Okay, that's the purpose. This is called countercurrent. Alright, my excellent biology students, if you've got any questions concerning this, please ask. So normally only urea, excess salts, and excess water diffuses from the patient's blood into the dialysis fluid. You've seen they've said what? Excess. So if the salts are too much into the blood, they've exceeded the normal concentration, it simply means that's now in excess, and therefore the remaining excess has to be removed from the blood and they will go into the tissue fluid, into the dialysis fluid, because the dialysis fluid only contains the normal. So if the blood has got more salts, those salts are going to escape from the blood going into the dialysis fluid. Same with the water. If the water in the blood is more than the water in the dialysis fluid, water from the blood will go into the dialysis fluid. Okay, so as long as it's excess, it will be excreted. Are you following? That's why they're saying normally only urea, excess salts, and excess water diffuse from the patient's blood into the dialysis fluid. A patient needs to be on the machine at least twice a week, and each session lasts about 8 hours. Okay, so afun kwenda ku clinic at least twice a week, and each session lasts for 8 hours. Wow, that's expensive if you ask me. Alright, so that's the end of this topic, excretion in animals. Hope you've enjoyed, hope you've learned. Please leave a like for this tutorial video. If possible, leave a comment. This has been Mr. Philip Kauma, the excellent biology tutor. Stay blessed.